This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Efforts to contain the coronavirus outbreak in China continues. We have the latest figures as well as encouraging stories of personal sacrifices. Incoming African Union Chair Cyril Ramaphosa outlined South Africa's agenda of fostering peace on the African continent.
February 22nd, 1969.
February
22nd, 1969.
Saturday.
Absolutely correct.
The remarkable story of a young Nigerian with a rare talent of identifying days in past dates. Hello and welcome to Africa Live. As always, great to have you with us. I'm Richard Nta live in Nairobi. And for those of you joining us from across the continent and around the globe, we thank you for joining us. And tonight I'm alongside my colleague Uche, who has our business headlines. Uche.
Thanks, Richard. And coming up on Africa Live Biz today. Some relief for South Africans as power utility Eskom scales back power cuts. And Starbucks shuts down 2,000 outlets in China due to the coronavirus outbreak. Of course, all that coming up within the program. For now, it's back to you.
Thanks a lot, Uche. Once again, welcome to Africa Live. We'll start in China, where the death toll from the coronavirus has climbed up to 133, all within China. More than 100 people have recovered, but the total number of confirmed cases worldwide stands at over 6,100. Nearly all of the patients are in China. Tibet is now reporting its first suspected infection. The epicenter is Wuhan, the capital of Hubei province, which has more than half of the cases. About 60,000 people are under medical observation. More than 70 cases are outside China. Thailand has 14. Singapore has 10. Japan just reported its 8th case. Australia and Malaysia each have 7. Even the United Arab Emirates confirmed its first known case. 4 people from one family. 1,000 confirmed cases, 1,000 confirmed cases, and 9 confirmed. Meanwhile, workers are racing to build 2 new hospitals in Wuhan within days. The city is straining to treat thousands of patients. This week, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang pledged the government's full support. CGTN's Tang Bo went to the construction sites to check on the progress.
This is the construction site of the Huashengshan Hospital, one of the 2 new hospitals ordered up by the city authorities of Wuhan. Actually, building a new hospital from scratch within a week is not the first time in China. Back in 2003, Chinese authorities built the Xiaotangshan Hospital in Beijing to respond to the SARS epidemic. It successfully treated 1/7 of all of the SARS patients at the time. As you can see right now, the new hospital is taking shape and is quite likely to be operational on February the 3rd.
Located 40 kilometers west of downtown Wuhan, Huashengshan Hospital takes up an area of 25,000 square meters. When complete, it will offer 1,000 beds. Currently, more than 3,000 workers have been toiling away here day and night on 3 different shifts. They are busy assembling wards and hospital units. The pace is intense and schedules tight, so much so that one of the program directors had to drop the interview we planned earlier. But instead, we managed to talk to some workers during their breaks.
We used to be understaffed and we had to work 2 shifts, 12 hours a day. Now, as more and more workers take part, we are able to work 3 shifts.
Work has been broken down. Each of us focuses on just one piece.
This is the construction site of the Leishengshan Hospital, another new hospital ordered by the Wuhan city authorities to respond to the epidemic. As you can see right here, the field leveling works have been finished. Waterproof layers and impermeable layers have been placed already. And right next to it is the Wuhan Military World Games Village. And I was there back in October last year reporting on the games. I have never really imagined that I'd one day come back here reporting on something devastating.
Leishenshan Hospital is about 40 kilometers away from Huashenshan Hospital. Graphic designs for the first and the second phases of the Leishenshan program are complete. The entire structure will be expanded to about 60,000 square meters, more than 2 times the size of Huashenshan Hospital. Therefore, a lot of supervision of labor force is required.
When one part of the construction is done, it's important to have the builders do a lot of preparatory work for the next phase of the construction.
And these 2 hospitals are not all. Chinese authorities have plans to build 2 more in the nearby cities of Huanggang and Zhengzhou, the capital city of central China's Henan province. Tang Bo, CGTN, Wuhan, Hubei province.
The coronavirus outbreak claimed its first medical worker last Saturday. Many have been working round the clock across China to treat patients and test those with symptoms. CGTN Zhao Yunfei visited Wuhan Pulmonary Hospital and spoke to a medical duo there. Let's take a look.
It's the Lunar New Year's Eve, but there's not much a festive atmosphere here in this hospital, except nurse on duty Wang Jie bringing dumplings for the patients. This patient's daughter is worried, and Wang Jie has to calm her down. It's part of Wang's job as a professional to give patients hope. But for Wang, she is also concerned about her husband, a doctor who works in the same hospital. When talking about their child, Wang gets emotional.
给我来说的话，大家都挺努力的。对孩子来说，我也觉得亏欠挺多的。我老公可能比我更乐观，因为每次我基本上跟他在一个医院，但是基本也没怎么见面。
Wang's husband Hu Ming is the director of the intensive care unit. He has been working non-stop with the new type pneumonia patients for a month. The frontline mission has let him only rest for 3 hours a day.
熟手太少了，就经验丰富的一线大夫少了。大部分支援的大夫他还不是完完全全的这个 ICU 的大夫，所以培训啊、训练啊，他还需要一个过程。
As Dr. Hu enters the ward, he disappears among his colleagues, who are working tirelessly in bulky and heavy white suits. Tonight, Wang came to Hu's office. They want to call their 9-year-old boy to say Happy New Year.
那爸爸妈妈今天晚上都上夜班，不能陪你了啊。
他新年快乐，儿子。
就祝你新年快乐啦！新年快乐。那么新年快乐。拜拜。
A special family gathering at a special night.
Lunar New Year Eve is a very important day for the Chinese as they reunite with family members. Many medical staff has given up their treasured time with loved ones, and many told me that they are confident to win the battle against the coronavirus. Zhao Yunfei, CGTN, Wuhan, Hubei Province.
The fight against the new type of pneumonia is winnable, but it may require medical personnel to make extreme sacrifices of their own. CGTN Zhao Yunfei has one such story of personal sacrifices.
So before we enter the intensive care unit, we have to wear on some medical isolation units. So here we go. I have my heads over here. I have to make sure my shoes are completely covered. That's my clothes. These are all the medical waste over here. It's reversed, so you have to tie from the back. This is just one layer of protection, but for nurses as well as doctors, they have to wear 6 to 7 layers. As they have to work inside for hours, it could be very difficult for them.
Inside the ICU ward, doctor and nurses are busy treating about 10 patients suffering life-threatening cases of the coronavirus. These patients are all infected with a new type of pneumonia. Doctor on duty Chen Yumei is among some 30 medical staff in the ward. The longest shift for each can be 20 hours. She was supposed to get married this weekend.
Things were all set for my wedding, but due to the epidemic, I have to cancel it.
She tells me each person at work has different situations and that the whole team has made sacrifices. Chen says all she can do is comfort her family over the phone, as she can't even go home due to the mass transit shutdown in the city.
In times of war, soldiers should be on the front lines. If there's a fire, firefighters should be there. We as doctors should commit to our responsibilities and missions.
Chen has a message for patients' family members. She and the other doctors are doing their best to cure their loved ones. Zhao Yunfei, CGTN, Wuhan, Hubei Province.
And here in Africa, Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, is making contingency plans in case the coronavirus makes a landing there. In 2014, Lagos battled Ebola, which was brought into the city by an infected person from Liberia. Authorities say the recent outbreak in China, they are leaving nothing to chance. CGTN's Deji Badmus reports.
If there's one Nigerian city that is vulnerable to the coronavirus, it is Lagos. The city is home to the country's busiest airport and seaports, and so it's the main port of entry for most foreigners flying into Nigeria. Many Nigerian businessmen from here travel to China and other parts of Southeast Asia for business. It's for these and other reasons that authorities of the city say they're on heightened alert against the coronavirus surfacing here.
We're in contact with the federal port health authorities every day. We're making sure that all flights that are coming in from Southeast Asia, either direct or through some other connection point, like in the Middle East or in East Africa. We are particularly astute to the passengers that are coming off the flights, and we cannot really, isolate one ethnic group from another and pay undue attention. We just need to screw in everybody that is coming in on those kinds of flights.
Lagos was hit by the Ebola virus in 2014 when an infected Liberian man flew into the city. In the 3 months that health authorities here battled the virus to a standstill, 7 persons died and 19 got infected. Authorities don't want a repeat of that with the coronavirus.
We've been building capacity in Lagos because the Ebola outbreak really scared us. So we have now what's called the biosecurity unit, where we had the Ebola patients and where we have our TB and HIV wards, and any serious infectious agent affecting patients, those patients are taken to Yaba Mainland Hospital. It is our Center for Infectious Diseases.
Part of the team at that center is Professor Sunday Omilabu, one of the country's top virologists. He was also at the center of the fight against the Ebola virus in Lagos in 2014.
We are more wiser now. So in terms of diagnosis, I would say we are battle ready. So unlike the Ebola where we use biosafety level 2, now we have biosafety level 3 that is actually required for respiratory-borne viruses, of which coronavirus is one. So in terms of diagnostics, so we are battle ready. It's only for us not to miss the case.
Despite its heightened preparation, this city and Nigeria at large would be seriously hoping the coronavirus does not make any landing here. The country's health authorities are currently battling to contain a Lassa fever outbreak that has claimed about 40 lives and infected around 200 across 19 states. So you definitely don't want the coronavirus to be brought into that mix. Deji Badmus, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Well, there's no confirmed case of the novel coronavirus on the African continent. Angela Coppola has more from South Africa, where the country's health minister briefed the media on the latest situation.
The South African health authorities are ready for any eventuality. The World Health Organization has asked the country to initially take the lead in the identification of the virus on the continent.
We've already had requests from a number of different countries. Should they have a case, will we be able to assist both with testing and also with helping those laboratories in Africa to get up and running with doing testing in country. And so we are fulfilling that role as well.
Part of South Africa's response to a potential case of this coronavirus is to create a multidisciplinary task team. Included in that response is a manned emergency operations center on the NICD campus.
Emergency Operations Center is on high alert. There's a technical description of the stage at which we are. It's the highest you can ever be at if you're dealing with the kind of reports that we are facing right now. There are already hospitals that have been designated. Charlotte Maclege, Tembisa Hospital, and I think Steve Biko are the ones that are targeted.
The continent is waiting with bated breath for a case to be reported. This as questions are now being asked about when an infected person is contagious. The NICD laboratory and its highly skilled experts are on standby to test and verify the first suspected sample.
The laboratory here at the NICD of the NHLS has been requested by the World Health Organization and the Africa CDC to act as a reference laboratory for Africa, and we've agreed to fulfill this role.
Because most of the testing will also be referred to South Africa, irrespective of where the cases might be detected, we are very much likely to be aware of that information about the cases there, probably even before that country can confirm they've got it. It will be us who will be having a chance to confirm it.
As of today, there are no confirmed reported cases of the virus in South Africa or Southern Africa. There are a couple of suspected cases, and this operations center here in Johannesburg is ready to scale up when the actual first case gets uncovered. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, as you've heard there, authorities in South Africa say they are prepared to tackle the coronavirus if and when it hits the country's shores. Renee Del Carme has more on this.
In South Africa's Western Cape province, the Department of Agriculture and Veterinary Services have just launched a state-of-the-art biosafety level 3 mobile laboratory. This unique world-class lab is expected to play a major role in identifying high-risk infectious diseases caused by bacteria, viruses and parasites that spread between animals and humans. And if needs be, it could also be used to test for the deadly new coronavirus.
I'm particularly happy that researchers and scientists all over the world are currently working together to make sure that they contain this particular virus as it affects human life. And for us, it is important to make sure that we also protect our citizens that will be traveling all over the world from this virus. And facilities like this can greatly help in terms of picking up the virus, do diagnostic assessments, and so we are greatly happy for this great facility.
Here in South Africa, we are learning from the experiences that other people are having, from China, but also other places where passengers and patients with this infection arrive. But it's very early days, so there's a lot of uncertainty and there's only a few things we know for sure.
South African health authorities say surveillance systems are in place to rapidly identify and detect any cases of the novel coronavirus in the country. This includes the screening and monitoring of anyone with a relevant travel history or close contacts with the area of the virus outbreak.
What we do know in South Africa is that anyone arriving who would be carrying this new infection should be recognized as soon as possible, because then they can be treated under isolation and there are special precautions to avoid the further spread within the country.
South African airports, hospitals and laboratories are on high alert and confident that they are ready to act. Renee Del Carme, CGTN, Cape Town, South Africa.
You are watching Africa Live. The news continues. We have a lot more coming your way, including incoming African Union Chair Cyril Ramaphosa outlines South Africa's agenda of fostering peace on the African continent.
February 22nd, 1969.
February
22nd, 1969.
Saturday.
Absolutely correct.
The remarkable story of a young Nigerian with a rare talent of identifying days in past dates.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca. among the crowds in Cairo.
Who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
Along the waters of the Nile. Along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
Welcome back to South Africa now, where President Cyril Ramaphosa says the nation will use the chairmanship of the African Union to promote peace on the continent, pursue economic development, and increase calls for gender equality, amongst others. CGTN's Yolisa Njamela now reports.
This conference brings together the heads of South Africa's diplomatic missions. The diplomats from the African continent gathered here to strategize on how best this country could use the position of the chair of the African Union. The position will be assumed by President Cyril Ramaphosa in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, at the 33rd Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly. The president told the head of missions that advancing peace and security is a priority for South African chairmanship of the AU as the continental body seeks to silence the guns in 2020.
Another pillar of South Africa's agenda as AU chair is going to be the empowerment of women, with a specific emphasis on promoting financial and economic inclusion and combating gender-based violence.
He also expressed his desire to champion the African Continental Free Trade Area.
We know that the AfCFTA will only become a reality if the infrastructure between African countries is developed. In the end, infrastructure is at the core of Africa's social, economic, and political challenges. It is crucial for sustainable development and inclusive growth, and for diversification through industrialization and value addition.
Meanwhile, International Relations and Cooperation Minister Naledi Pandor issued a stern warning about attacks by militants affiliated to the Islamic State in northern Mozambique.
Attacks by militants affiliated with Islamic State and Daesh in the northern Mozambique province of Cabo Delgado have raised concerns about an Islamic State presence in new territories where we see some allegiance with local militant groups. We should be worried then, given the attacks in Mozambique, which indicate a presence of IS in the SADC region.
Yolisa Njamela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, one of the countries suffering from a long-running conflict is Libya, with oil production getting severely restricted and a reported flow of militants into the North African country. The international community fears that Libya could soon become a new Syria. Here is Adel Al-Marhoui with more.
The Berlin Conference on Libya should have been a turning point in the political process of the war-torn country. Instead, both rival powers appear to be preparing for a new battle despite an undocumented ceasefire agreement. First, the fight shifted from controlling Tripoli to regaining power over the oil production.
Libyan tribes have interfered to freeze oil production. They've been feeling that the conflict in Libya has been portrayed to be between two parties, al-Sarraj and Haftar. In reality, the Libyan tribes manage 3/4 of the land. So they joined Haftar to pressure al-Sarraj financially. Oil money has been fueling the war, which is killing Libyans and funding mercenaries.
Since ISIL's defeat in Iraq and Syria, the terrorist group has been gaining a stronghold in Libya's south, thanks to the security void the war over Tripoli created.
We have been seeing a new stage in the region, where thousands of militants are being relocated from Syria to Libya. ISIL is now settled in Libya. The presence of the conflict in Libya is a fertile condition for the growth of extremism. Although the international coalition and the US are holding strikes against ISIL in the south, remnants of the group can always grow powerful as long as there's no strong government in Libya.
Both the strength of extremist terrorist groups and the lack of supervision over oil exports have been among the main reasons of fueling the civil war in Syria. Libya now has similar catalysts which made many leaders warn about the grave consequences it could have.
With the rivaling political parties in Libya refusing to negotiate and ISIL gaining a stronghold in Libya, the whole world is concerned that the country might turn into another Syria. The question remains, can they intervene to stop that from happening? Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
And U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu unveiled a Middle East peace plan that they described as the deal of the century. The plan advocates for a two-state solution with Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Yasser Hakim takes a look at the reactions from the Arab world.
The plan has been outright rejected by several Arab countries, including the Palestinians themselves. Trump tried to sweeten the deal by pledging $50 billion of economic aid to Palestine. However, it is viewed by the region as a pro-Israeli plan, unfair to the Palestinian side.
The main contentious issue is announcing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. This is a major point of controversy with the Palestinians, who would not need on their demand of Jerusalem as a capital of their state. The fate of the refugees is another issue. You cannot stop someone from returning to their home country. The plan is to keep the refugees out of the country, and this is unethical. Other issues like borders are negotiable, but these 2 points will be a hurdle to peace.
Egypt has issued a statement describing the peace plan as an appreciated effort by the United States to achieve peace that should be built upon. It has also called for direct negotiations between the Palestinians and Israelis to hammer out a final comprehensive peace deal. Meanwhile, the Arab League has announced an urgent meeting of Arab foreign ministers on Saturday in Cairo. Secretary General Ahmed Abul Ghait had said that the deal wastes the legitimate rights of Palestinians. He added that the Arab League will carefully study the plan before making any response.
We have to admit that the Arab League does not have the tools to solve this crisis. What we expect from the meeting on Saturday is to denounce and reject the peace plan. What I wish is that the Arab League would issue its own roadmap for peace and counter the US plan. This would create an Arab vision for achieving peace rather than depending on the US version alone.
The deal of the century meant to achieve peace has certainly become a source of more tensions in the volatile region. According to experts here, the deal of the century has had one positive impact. It has managed to succeed in uniting the divided Palestinian factions. Hamas has announced its support to arch-foe President Mahmoud Abbas in his stance against the US peace plan. Yasser Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
Well, Egypt has always been supporting a two-state solution to the Palestine-Israel conflict based on the 1967 borders. While President Trump's new peace plan violates some key conditions, Egypt has not voiced its rejection of the plan. Some analysts say that that may be because of Egypt's need for support from the White House in the ongoing Nile water talks with Ethiopia.
While President Trump was announcing his peace plan for the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, delegations from Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia were starting a new round of Nile water talks in Washington, D.C. It's a matter of life and death to Egypt, and a file the White House has been managing for months. The timing of the two events gave an impression that the White House could be abusing the Nile talks to get more cooperation from Egypt to the peace plan.
It could be a coincidence, but the mixing of these files may have had pragmatic purposes. The timing for the announcement was difficult for Egypt. I think that was evident in the Egyptian Foreign Ministry statement, which appears to be written with great precision. It's diplomatically wise. I think Egypt has postponed engaging in that file until the time is more convenient.
Many times, Egypt has firmly voiced its rejection to the U.S. Embassy move to Jerusalem and recognition to Israeli settlements. This week, however, in Cairo's statement, the firm terms vanished in the country's reaction to Trump's announcement. Still, experts believe that Egypt is not troubled as much now as it was from the first version of the peace plan.
In its first version, the deal of the century included territorial compromise from Egypt's land in Sinai in favor of the Palestinians. The new version of that deal doesn't engage with that concept, at least explicitly. That is a great achievement from the Egyptian diplomacy. So I don't think there has been a great compromise from Egypt.
Cairo is expecting to reach a deal this week on the operation and the filling of the reservoir of the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam. After reaching a deadlock in the talks, Egypt resorted to the White House, fearing a decrease in its Nile water share.
The latest round of talks has seen great progress in Egypt's favor. Ethiopia's stubbornness retreated greatly. However, there is an information blockade over the final round taken place this week. The US brokering was beneficial to us.
While the Palestinian Authority and the Arab League have been discrediting the United States as a fair broker to peace, Egypt has called Palestinians to consider Trump's peace plan and engage in peace talks led by the United States. It's a diplomatic compromise that Egypt may have taken to avoid interruptions in the Nile talks. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
And back to Nigeria now, where a 9-year-old elementary school pupil in Lagos is causing quite an excitement because of his rare mental abilities. He is believed to be capable of spontaneously and accurately telling any day of the week in any particular year without looking up a calendar. Here is CGTN's Deji Badmus with this remarkable story.
It's within the four walls of the school that the 9-year-old genius was discovered. Shiju Olawepo looks like every other pupil in his class at Carroll School in Lagos. But this primary 5 pupil is actually different.
I have a couple of random dates here that I'm going to ask Shiju to tell me the days. And the first one I have would be 1983. Shiju, tell me, 1983, October 2nd, 1983. What day was it?
October 2nd, 1983 is Sunday.
Absolutely correct. February 22nd, 1969.
February 22nd,
1969.
Saturday.
Absolutely correct. January 15th, 1937.
January 15, 1937 is January 15, 1937 is Friday.
It's all too surreal how Shiju has all this information in his head.
He likes coming around me, coming to the computer.
David Ogyomo, an ICT teacher in the school, was the first person to spot Shiju's rare talent. He says at first he dismissed him, but Shiju kept coming back.
Then I started asking him random questions. I said, okay, what day is 14th of so at a particular, in a particular year? You say if it's Wednesday, you say Wednesday.
The rate of reasoning, you cannot fathom it. All the dates I listed for him, we didn't miss out any.
It was shocking, and we kept drilling him. We kept drilling him.
That little head.
Yes, and we were like, well, just looking at him. I couldn't comprehend it. I had to pick up my phone to call the parents to say, wow, do you know you have an angel? And they were quite amazed too. They didn't.
We visited Shiju's parents at home for some explanation, and they told us they did not exactly know he had the rare talent until that call came from his school.
We had always known him to do this calendar writing at home, and he's bugging everybody with it, and in fact we were just leave him to do his thing. But what we did not know is that he could actually match the day with the dates.
Now we pay more attention to details. We want to check what he's doing. He's advanced now. Now that he knows that everybody is aware of all those things he's been writing, he has stopped writing. Now he wants to engage you in more intelligent discussions.
So 1st of October, 2055, what day would that be?
1st of October 2055 is Friday.
Shiju is now being dubbed the calendar genius. His school has also designed a special curriculum for him, allowing him to work at his own pace.
How do you know all this?
I just know it.
How do you just know it?
I just know it.
There may just be a lot more in this 9-year-old genius waiting to be discovered. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Well, that's incredible and amazing, all wrapped up into one. It's over to you, Uche, with our business headlines.
Indeed. Thanks, Richard. And coming up on Africa Live Biz. Some relief for South Africans as power utility Eskom scales back power cuts. And Starbucks shuts down 2,000 outlets in China due to the coronavirus outbreak.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Now, South Africa's Eskom has reduced the number of power cuts after bringing generating units back online on Friday. However, the system is considered to still maintain vulnerabilities due to breakdowns. Eskom also plans to reduce national grid supplies by 1,000 megawatts, down from the previous 2,000. Now, the struggling power utility is heavily reliant on emergency reserves in order to meet power demands, and that's due to persistent problems at its coal-fired power stations. It's a problem that has pushed Africa's most industrialized nation to the brink of recession. And the International Monetary Fund has projected Ethiopia's economy will grow by 6.2% in the 2020 fiscal year. This, of course, is below the government's forecast of 10.8%, but still in line with World Bank estimates. The country's government has been implementing reforms, including opening up industries to private sector investors. Ethiopia's reserves are expected to hit $4 billion as efforts to reduce poverty continue to sustain its economy. However, performance of exports remains weak, while foreign exchange shortages still persist. An American coffee house chain, Starbucks, has shut down half of its outlets in China. It is in an effort to protect its staff and support government measures to contain the coronavirus. The rapid expansion of the infection could ultimately affect the financial performance of the business. Starbucks currently has almost 4,300 outlets in China, which account for about 10% of the firm's global revenue. The number of deaths from the virus has risen to more than 130 and almost 6,000 confirmed infections. Now, earlier, Starbucks announced plans to upgrade its annual profit forecast after a better than expected first quarter performance, but it still decided against changing its projections, and of course that's due to the outbreak of the virus. Now, on the international front, the British government has approved a restricted role for Chinese telecoms giant Huawei in building the country's 5G network. CGTN's Nawid Jabrakil has the details from London.
After years of deliberation, the UK government has finally decided to allow Huawei to play a limited role in its 5G networks. The government says that it came to the decision following a technical and security analysis that it calls the most detailed assessment of its kind in the world. In terms of why it's reached a decision, Britain's intelligence agencies say that they found no evidence that Huawei was involved in espionage on behalf of the Chinese state, and that any potential risks in the future could be mitigated. There are also technological and logistical reasons as well. Britain's two largest telecoms operators, BT and Vodafone, had called against a total ban on Huawei, saying it would cost billions of dollars to rip up the existing infrastructure that the Chinese tech giant is involved in here in the UK. There were also concerns that if Britain doesn't use Huawei, which has fairly advanced technology when it comes to 5G and also fairly cost-effective technology, that it would set the UK's development of 5G back by years. But there was a lot of pressure for Britain not to take today's decision. The United States has warned its allies not to work with Huawei, saying that if they do, it would open them up to Chinese spying. That's something that the UK government has found no evidence of, but also the Chinese government and Huawei have denied those claims. But this is also a major political political decision for Boris Johnson. It was the first real key test of foreign policy, if you like, especially with Britain leaving the European Union in just a matter of days. On the one hand, you had the United States calling for a total ban, a key ally, a Five Eyes security ally, saying that potential intelligence sharing could be at risk if Britain took this decision. On the other hand, China, a key trading partner, accounting for about 5% of non-EU trade with this country. As Britain looks to leave the European Union, it's looking to strike trade deals, particularly with the United States, its largest non-EU trading partner. So the whole consequences of this still yet to be fully discovered. One key interesting aspect is that US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is expected to land in London on Wednesday, where he's set to meet Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and today's decision could make that meeting all the more interesting. But after years of thinking about it, after years of being pressured by the United States, Britain has come to the decision to allow Huawei to play a role in its 5G networks. Norwegia Barkill, CGTN, London.
Meanwhile, a top Huawei official says the firm is pleased to continue supplying the UK with 5G connectivity. Vice President Jeremy Thompson says Huawei has faced difficulties in trying to scrub off that high-risk tag after moving to the UK.
We invest over $14 billion last year in R&D. We have leading-edge technology, leading-edge 5G technology and other technologies. So we bring the UK 5G earlier than it could have otherwise achieved 5G. In addition to that, there aren't many suppliers for 5G. There are only 3, and we're one of them. And we enable the UK to have not only leading edge technology at a good price, but we actually enhance the resilience in the UK by being the 3rd supplier.
Well, that's all for now on Africa Live Biz. But coming up later on Global Business Africa, we'll be bringing you more on British Airways suspending all direct flights to and from mainland China, of course, due to the coronavirus outbreak. All that coming up top of the hour. For now, back to Richard.
Thanks a lot, Uche. You are watching Africa Live on CGTN. We've got a lot more coming your way. Stay tuned.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Qanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back. A Chinese national who has been living in Mauritius for almost 30 years now and has used his passion in teaching to help local residents learn and understand Mandarin and the Chinese culture. Hugh Venkatasamy is also very passionate about the New Year celebration, such that every year he invites his students and their families to his house for a New Year's Eve feast. By doing this, Hugh wants them to get a feel of what the Spring Festival is like and what Chinese traditions are like.
It's a great pleasure to teach children in Mauritius Chinese. Every time when they manage to speak Mandarin fluently or have learned a new Chinese song, it makes my day. I see a future where every Mauritian will be able to speak Mandarin. Some of my students have become my colleagues. They're also teaching Chinese, and some have even become diplomats. Many students choose to go to China for university every year. I'm proud of them from the bottom of my heart. I didn't celebrate the Chinese New Year for almost 20 years, but now I celebrate it with my Mauritian family every year. When the Spring Festival approaches, I decorate my house in red and make sure everyone who steps in the house can smell Chinese New Year. I usually do the same to my classrooms at school. I wear different Chinese chipawa every day for a week around Spring Festival so that people around me, like my colleagues and students, would know it's a Chinese New Year. I also throw a New Year party at my place and invite everyone for New Year's Eve feast for them to get a feel of what Spring Festival is like and what Chinese tradition is like. Everyone around me now has a good knowledge about it.
Happy New Year!
The Chinese Cultural Center in Cairo recently held a special event at the famous Egyptian Great Pyramid Scenic Area. Nearly 1,000 people attended the event. The world-famous 3 Great Pyramids were dressed in red to welcome the Chinese New Year. There was a pyramid sound and light show against the background of the Sphinx. The event took 45 minutes and it told the legendary stories of Pharaoh Thutmose IV, Cleopatra, and Pharaoh Tutankhamun. And in South Africa, thousands made the long trip to Nile Temple in Brockhouse-Spruit to participate in the Chinese New Year celebrations. CGTN's Julie Shire has more.
Nile Temple is the biggest Buddhist center on the African continent. Over the years, it's grown as a popular destination for Chinese New Year celebrations. It once again opened its doors as thousands flocked in to soak up the blessings and hope the Year of the Rat brings.
We've been to the temple for Chinese New Year a couple of times, and we found out about the baby blessing for New Year's, and we thought, you know, we want to experience or expose her to a lot of different cultural experiences. Buddhism's got very good principles. I hope that she'll take those on in life. I hope that she'll be blessed as well. Yeah.
The rat is the first of 12 animals on the Chinese zodiac. It is nimble and quick thinking and brings an abundance of riches and wealth.
So this is the year where we're saying that it's the year of making money, but also not to waste the money, to save whatever wealth you get. But we're not only talking about the money, we're also talking about whatever you get, you must use it smartly and use it very wise. And to cover that, so the rats will give us the year which is full of happiness.
First-time visitors marveled at the grandeur and serenity of Nanhua, which was built in 1992. It was a chance to learn about the ancient Chinese culture still steeped in age-old traditions.
It's actually quite interesting to see the building itself. I would like to also know a lot more history about it, when it was actually developed, and so maybe I'll find that out as I walk around. But so far I'm really excited. I'm quite overwhelmed by everything. I can't even believe that I'm here. It feels like I'm in China.
It's very different in that this has more of a cultural sort of background towards how they celebrate, whereas us South Africans sort of just party, have a braai and just drink. I think that is a very cool thing.
It's our first time coming through and we'll definitely be doing it again next year. I must say it's an incredible cultural experience, so just really amazing and totally not what we expected as well, and everybody's so incredibly welcoming as well.
It was a day for family and friends with a range of activities planned. The famous wishing tree, as always, is a hit among visitors.
This event is basically for the wishing tree that's behind us. So what you do is that you actually write your name and your wish on this ribbon, and then you throw it in the wishing tree. Then it makes obviously your wish to come true, basically. So the choice is that you can choose the color of your choice, or it depends on the year that you were born and you can choose the respective color.
The wish is for prosperity or for whatever that you want throughout your lunar year. So anything that you hope to achieve or any goals that you want to set and you want to accomplish, just write it down on your birth coin over there and then you throw it into the tree.
The Year of the Rat has begun here in South Africa. Celebrations are well underway and the party will last for the next couple of weeks. Shini Kwaila, Julie Shara, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
And now time for some very important breaking news. The UK is now set to leave the European Union on Friday with a deal in place. The European Parliament has approved the withdrawal agreement by 621 votes. The votes against the deal were 49. Moving on, time now for our sports news. Coming up after the break, let's take a look at that headline. FIFA Secretary General Fatima Samora hails Uganda's efforts in developing regional football.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
Welcome back. FIFA Secretary General Fatma Samora has hailed Uganda's efforts in developing regional football. Samora was in Uganda this week at the invitation of local Federation President Moses Magogo in her first visit to the East African country.